Hello and welcome to another season in review. Today, if you haven't probably gathered, we're looking at the Bombers and, well, what a topsy-turvy year that they've had out there at Windy Hill. But I think there are some positive signs after a disappointing year and a year that saw them, well, plenty of injuries, ruined many chances for them, but it gave a lot of young players a chance to get a taste of league footy. Our panel, I'll introduce them to you, and I think we welcome for the first time this year in our seasons in review, Craig Kelly. Welcome along.
Thanks, Rob. I've had a couple of weeks off, very relaxed up Sunshine Coast, playing a bit of golf, so it's a bit hard to get back into the footy mode just yet.
We will edge you in quietly, Craig, because I can tell you're going to earn your dollar fairly hard in the next few weeks, because you're going to be doing a few of these with us, and look forward to it anyhow. And our chief football writer from the Sunday Age, Rohan Connolly.
Hi, Rob.
Our esteemed journalist joining the panel, who added just a little bit of culture and a little bit of semblance to it all.
Oh, come on, nice try, but no, look, good to be here, and very disappointing season for the Bombers. And
now, you're talking from a journalistic point of view, or are you talking from the heart?
I'm talking from both points of view, Rob, but it was, look, certainly a lot of injuries, but I agree with you, some pretty good signs towards the end there, so all was not lost.
Might have to get you to pull him into gear.
Well, I thought his article was always very biased towards Essendon, probably too much so we might get into him about that.
Thanks, Ned. I think a certain Essendon coach was suggesting the same thing during the season.
Well, if you take the soft option, we just might have to pull you into gear, Rohan. And joining us, of course, from Essendon, and he's part of the furniture around here lately, Gary O'Donnell. Welcome along.
Thank you, Rob.
Have I summed that up pretty well? Probably a disappointing year for you, but there are some positive signs out of it?
Yes, we probably, with the list of players we had at the start of the year, we thought we'd do better, but, you know, some seasons go like that. I think the top clubs, hopefully they turn around seasons like this quicker than the lower clubs, and we consider ourselves a top club, so we'll be back in town in '98, hopefully.
Been at the helm for a little while there now. Was it frustrating at any stage through the year and thinking, well, I can't do any more than what I'm doing?
Well, as a player personally, individually, I could have done more. I probably had a disappointing year as far as my standards go, but as far as the leadership goes, it was very much a character-building type situation, but hopefully we'll come out of it better as a group of players and, you know, the group of leaders that were under pressure the whole year, from supporters, the press, and probably at some stages from within the club as well.
The interesting thing out of it, Ned, though, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I get the impression, we'll probably touch on it a bit later on as well, but I get the impression that a lot of the injuries, or the injury factor that's happened at Essendon, I think they've got over through the year. I don't think a lot of players have had to sort of try and recuperate over the summer period. I think the troubles that you went through were during the year.
Well, it's important, isn't it, Gary, if you can get over those injuries, although you had them during the year, and get a full pre-season, and it's just gone to show, look, during the year, the sides that can get a full, solid pre-season, I believe you guys are doing a heap at the moment. It means they've got that foundation there for the following year.
Yeah, we've started early, like Footscray have got a lot to answer for last year.
Haven't they what?
Haven't they what? But we have got a couple still in the rehab situation. They're going to be probably, you know, eased along, but before Christmas we're going to have most in a situation where they're going to get good bases in a pre-season and come out firing in, you know, February, March.
Got some off-season information to have a bit of a glance at here, and as we read through these, now I hope you're up to date with a lot of these, Ned, but Shea Cockatoo Collins, I should say, the good news here is, of course, he wants to stay a Bomber despite the rumours of returning to Port Adelaide. Paper rumour, Gary, or was there a fair bit of momentum in that?
I think managers can do different things at different times, but I think Shea, whereas Gavin Wanganeen last year, I thought he was always going to go, Shea was probably a 75-25 possibility of staying.
The second bloke, having a look there, Blake Carosella, an enormous rap. I know you are for him.
Oh, absolutely, and you know, that certainly would have been a relief to have him signed up on a, you know, reasonable length contract, and I'd say he was almost the most promising thing out of the season for Essendon. Really has a touch of class about him, knows where the goals are. Real cool head for a young bloke too, isn't he?
Yeah, we're always going to get pressure from other clubs chasing him coming out of contract, and we're always going to keep him, and I think he played 17 games. He's going to be a very good player. Still got a lot to learn, but he's got the ability to get on his own and get a kick. So
the fascinating thing out of all what we saw up there, Ned, before too, was that there was no draft deals done by Essendon prior to the actual draft itself, and yet the names of O'Connor, Fraser and Berbakoff were all sort of tipped as being, and she just sat back there and said, well, you can say what you like and report what you like, and I know what I'm going to do.
I don't know if he just sat back there. I mean, I think perhaps a couple of things he was trying to do, Gary, perhaps didn't fall into place as he wanted. I know that even as late as the night before he was trying to do one deal, but unfortunately that didn't come off. But it's enormous pressure for a club like that with so many young guys coming through, and also Gary, his contract coming up. The fact he's trying to keep those guys within your club, because guys now want to go. If they're prepared to go to another club and the package is right, they'll do it. And it puts a lot of pressure on the key footy clubs.
I think there was certainly a lot of surprise from a media point of view that Essendon didn't do any trades. I think there was a feeling there that they really need to sort of bolster their middle ranks by perhaps, you know, offering a bit of senior quality. I mean, what was your feeling on that?
But you may be right. We might look at the March draft in that situation. You might find a couple of guys get dropped off from now till March. I think we needed some taller players, and you can't just go out and pick them. And I think our 5 picks were all over 185 centimetres, so, you know, in the old range 6'2" and above. So we've gone for a problem that we've had in height, and hopefully we can model a couple of those players into key position backmen.
Well, as we do every time, we have a look at some of the key games. The first one we look at is round 3 against North Melbourne. This is where the Bombers went to the top of the ladder.
No doubt, player of immense talent, Fletcher, last year even went up to the forward line where he proved a match winner. Cockatoo Collins kicks the ball down, good mark by Blumfield. But too tall that time for Freeborn. Just 13 AFL games, made his mark last year. Hurd, he's got it. Fantastic player, just floats across in front. He kicks a big bomb. What a kick from James Hurd! From a standing start, he's belted at 60 metres and he's kicked the goal.
He had to get it over the line. So James Hurd to do some ruck work after kicking that magnificent goal. Laidley missed it. So too did Cockatoo Collins. Oh, Mercedes went hard at the footy. O'Donnell to Cockatoo Collins nearly came off. Freeborn. Quick hand pass. Chandler. Lucas tries to punch away from McCurtain. Not successful. Simons nearly. Allison's nearly got him. But Lucas will clear for the Bombers.
And drives the ball along. Back to centre half forward. High flyer was Pryor at ground level. James Hurd beaten by King. Great tackle by the Brownlow medalist. Inside the centre square, coming through hard was Hardwick. Hurry kick back towards the half forward line. O'Donnell kicks a high ball. Alessio underneath it. Big mighty Mick thumps the ball away, picked up by Hurd. Quick snap. He's done it again.
Just catching up with him now, Dennis Ritchie had a couple of words to him, so
probably not anything in that one that was reportable, but it only had to be a little bit more aggressive, and he would have been in the book.
Now Michael Long from Alessio. Away he goes. The excitement machine, Michael Long. Doesn't kick it as well as he would have liked, but it still fell into the arms of James Hurd. Good tackle by Pike. Cockatoo Collins brushes spots, straightens up around King, kicks it goal, and has booted it. More of that done. Scholl, nearly, Burbakov, Calthorpe with the blood. Probably should have gone off under the blood rule, but got his kick away to his credit. Simons just can't quite gather, and away he goes.
So Simons across half back. It's a poor kick to O'Donnell, but they've got the numbers 3 against 1. That tells a story. Denham kicks inside 50. Martin in front. I think that shoulder's pretty sore. Alessio kicks a goal.
He goes in short and finds McCurtain, mark number 11 in front of Hurd. Gets away quickly. Good long kick. Up towards Archer, as I said, at full forward. Fletcher there with him, wears him pretty closely. Good bit of holding decision there. Umpire lets it go. Roberts spins quickly. Oh, don't tell me he's kicked it. That would be a miracle goal. It's there.
Very hard player to beat and keep in control. He's booted 4 goals now. Stevens across half back. Kicks back to the point of the square. Bomford gives it across to Pryor. Quite certain how Bomford never got a game with Sydney. He's played just on 80 reserved games. O'Connor had the ball punched away. Volley ball back by Long. Here's Calthorpe. Here's a goal coming up. The Bombers are hot.
Let alone a number of unknowns that are very talented. They have got an extraordinary list of talented players, the Bombers.
And Kevin Shetty would like all of them to be on the interchange bench.
That's a goal.
Lloyd.
Well, Bomber fans would have been on cloud 9, let me tell you. Their first game, of course, against Carlton, a 7-point victory. The second time, round 2, they played Port over there and ended up good victors there with 33 points. And then against the reigning premiers, victors again. You really would have probably been sitting back thinking, hang on, it's been a little turnaround since the premiership year. but things look like to be on a nice roll.
Yeah, people around the club were talking premierships after 3 rounds, which is a bit annoying to be involved with that sort of talk, but we thought we had a pretty good chance beating the premiers from last year, and they were at full, well, except for Carey, they were at full strength, so we were travelling nicely at that stage.
Probably wasn't just people around the club either, was it? I mean, you'd had a few players underdone at the start of the season, managed to beat Carlton in a pretty good quality game, beaten Port Adelaide at their home, and beaten the defending premier, so the form chart was pretty reasonable.
Journo's jumped on it, no doubt. You
oh, we always do, Ned. You know us. You know us.
The win at Port was good. We came back, and people were saying, geez, that's not a very good win, 5 goals over there. But, gee, in hindsight, when Port have won 7 or 8 for the rest of the year at home, it was a very good win, and that was the sort of form we were in those early games.
Before you saw the package, you're talking about the key defence area and lack of height there. When Fletcher had to go forward during the year, it really did unbalance the side a little bit. But then you look at the side when it was playing well. I mean, it is a very well balanced side with leg speed, height, mobility. It'd be very hard to match up, and I think that's why early in the year you guys really, you know, beat some sides that perhaps when you look at it towards the end of the year, you know, it was really good wins.
I think we're going to be at our best when we're going to get Dustin, I was going to call him Ken, Dustin to play at centre-half back.
Yeah.
That's his spot. He's just got to probably get a little bit fitter. But if he's able to play there, and every so often we release him to the forward line.
I thought his first half of the year was good, Fletcher.
Yeah,
he was very good.
First few rounds of the season he was in spectacular form.
But it goes, all the sides that win premierships and do very well, their half-back line is a crucial part of it. And really I think it's important for the side to get that key defender like a Fletcher, just be able to stay there and play there permanently.
Yep, and also just a second string guy, about just under the height of Dustin, and who can get the next best forward and take the pressure off the other guys around, you know, in the forward line.
Actually, it's interesting listening to this bloke here pump up the key defenders, but
I have to. No one else does. The Journo certainly don't.
Two players missing out of there, Rohan, virtually looking at Long and also Hurd. Sadly, we didn't see much of them later on in the year, but when you've got those sort of players, and you saw them, they had plenty of the footy in those highlights that we saw before.
Well, as we'll discuss, in fact, the very next week, Essendon were to lose both Hurd and Long, and that really was a turning point in the season for them. But they were as we saw from the highlights there, I mean, James Hurd was just looking awesome early on in the year, and so was Longy. So, despite all your gags about the media, I think maybe the premiership favouritism was justified at that stage.
Well, let's turn our attention to round 7, and of course it was against Adelaide, who ended up being the premiers for 1997.
Millions of possessions. Long, short of full forward. Punched by O'Connor. O'Donnell fumbled it to Genza. Jarman back in defence. Hard up the ground and in plenty of room. Unmarked on centre wing, Vardy. Lead offered in short by Robran. Vardy goes long. Stanfield or Modra. Open goal for Modra.
Lovely kick to the centre wing. Berbatov at the back. Ricky Olorenshaw. There's Pittman. Still on centre wing as it comes out to Denham. Denham drives at the half-forward. This is where they've been missing James Hurd. Around the half-forward area, Cransberg. Now a chance, Lloyd for his third, as he bombs at goal. This could be a goal, judging by the goal umpire. Yes! I'm glad the umpire didn't reverse that, because there was nothing in that at all as we see Danaher going forward.
Kick by Chris Danaher to centre half forward. Lloyd back to Cockatoo Collins. He's had a pretty quiet day. The kick dropping a bit short. Oh, Connor got it! In between two of them, over his shoulder, and this is close. I think he's kicked it.
So half-forward flank for the Bombers. George Johnson went to the line, but he missed it. It's tapped back in. Denham did well. Nasiti will sock it off the ground up towards the half-forward area. Oh, well played by Pryor. Brilliant play. Into the goal he goes, Michael Pryor, and he's kicked the ripper. Blake Carosella with a wobbly kick, an ordinary one, in fact, towards the centre of the ground. Is tapped back towards Pittman. He's got support from Brett James. Here's Nigel Smart. Caven has been a very good player again. Peter Caven is a beautiful kick to Modra. Unmarked. But St Edwards has script on this ball. I think it's another one. Yes.
big winners, Adelaide over there. The final scoreline, I think, was 126-73. Would you have come out of that game, Gary, thinking, hang on, these guys might be a bit of a threat for the finals?
No, not at that stage of the year. We they were travelling all right at that stage, but we were with them until half time, and then later on in the game, or third quarter, we had guys starting to go down. I think that was the notorious day we had 4 or 5 hamstring injuries, and we had 1 or 2 guys on the ground that wouldn't normally be on the ground in the last quarter. Not that that's any excuse for getting beaten by 10 goals. We could have done things that could minimise something like that and lose by 4 or 5, but we really let it blow out towards the end.
Do you have a theory about why the club had so many hamstring injuries?
It hasn't been something that is we've had a great problem with in the past. It may have been one of those things, but Adelaide, I've only ever had hamstring trouble 3 times in my 15 years of footy, and 2 of them have been at Adelaide, in Adelaide.
Oh, really?
It might be the surface.
Could be the water, maybe.
Could be the water, yes. It could be a number of factors. I think it may have been just the way it went that time. But the club's doing a lot of work at the moment to make guys stronger in there. We're talking in the break about core areas, groins, hips, hamstrings, those areas. The club is doing a lot of work this year to improve those areas.
Actually, it's interesting you brought that subject up, because I think it was in the papers and in the press, Ned, that with the new training establishment you had out there in the indoor arena, virtually, that you've got, that perhaps that may have been copping some of the blame for some of those injuries.
Yeah, well, you don't know, I mean, but it is an issue where we had at Collingwood a number of years ago. The soft tissue injuries are really something that can be managed by clubs. How you approach guys, and the history of guys, like we're talking about Joey Mercedes with his core, as you say, his back and groin always cause problem in the second half of the year, and how you manage that is so important. And I think, like Gary's saying, the club's certainly addressing it, or need to address it this year, or the coming season. Just
touching on that, I mean, you're far in advance ahead of a lot of the other clubs with what you've got out there at Essendon. What's your theory, or what's your, so what I'm looking for here, looking at the transition of being able to do everything inside now instead of having to go out on the cold nights?
Yeah, it's not the ideal facility as far as doing a full session in there, but it's big enough to do some skill work. And if you've got
it's all rebound ace, isn't it?
Rebound ace, yeah. So maybe guys coming to terms with the new surface for the first time in their career, maybe it'll take a year for them to get used to it. Definitely a good area to do certain tests that they're consistent. Everyone will be the same over a period of time, rather than being shunted around the local areas.
Big enough to do set plays in, all that sort of stuff?
Well, we've got a big oval on the floor, and we sort of walk through set plays rather than actually go through them physically. So it's easily identified where everyone is on the ground, and you just walk through the different things that we're looking at in a game situation.
Interesting thing out of that, Ned, is that while that was probably an issue early on as to perhaps whether that was causing a lot of injuries, there's been no problem from any of the tennis players. The only complaints you've got from them is, of course, of the heat. Well, that's not a factor with you inside. So when it did service, I thought, well, why haven't the tennis players been complaining about it?
Well, my theory, I've got a theory on it, but and I was talking to Gary about it off air, but I just think that sometimes it's very important the techniques, the weights being done, and I know we've had this discussion before. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I know that was one of our major problems with Collingwood is making sure you've got enough staff to police the fact that these guys are doing a lot of lower leg body weights, etc., to make sure they're doing the technique correctly, because you find most of your hamstring and those injuries come from your lower back.
Well, Collingwood actually changed quite a few of their fitness staff in the last couple of years, haven't they?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do either, but it's a management thing.
I think generally if you're doing all the right things, and I think the leg weights are a very important part of your preparation for a rigorous season of league footy.
Unfortunately, the next win for the Dons came some 7 games later. Let's catch the action.
Confident going for shots to goal, obviously open the goals up and look for another option. The high flyer was Olarencho, unable to take the mark. Now a chance, offloading the handball on the 50. Denham, 150 games today. Celebrate, son! There it is, another one for the Bombers.
Here's Caracella, he's at half-back. He's looking for an option, but he's going to have to bomb it long. It's a one-on-one contest. Lloyd used his body well. Just a little nudge out. And Matthew Lloyd swings onto the left and kicks it high. He's looking down here for Dean Wallace, who's going to fly in front. Can't mark. Gaspar, caught. Gets in a quick hand pass, but it's danger because Mercedes latches onto it, goes back and puts it through for a goal. Well, I think they should ring the bell. As we see...
I'm trying to justify it to make it legal.
Anyway, Gary O'Donnell kicks for goal. And up to the square. Oh, there's a kick by Blomfield. I think he stopped it. Yes!
10 or 15 metres on his own. Plenty of time to shoot it up forward, looking for Ola Renshaw, who's held without the ball from Chris Bond. Chris Bond been caught many times being led to the ball. There's Bullis in front of Cransberg. Now Lucas around the corner. Another one for the Bombers. There it is.
You don't like seeing good players out of it. Masidi, Denham, Doolan's been excellent. So has Pryor. Onto the left. Jukovic on the ground, and he'll race the goal inside 50. The boy from the under-18s puts it through the middle. It's raining goals here.
Well, a resounding win there for the Dons. Boys getting carried away, and here, well, excited about that win, weren't you? 126 to, sorry, that's round 7. 127 to 34. Just a remarkable turnaround.
Things fell into place for us that day.
What was awesome?
1997 is going out with a bang on ESPN. NBA, this is the big league. The big guys play hard and fast. Soccer, all the best from around the world. English Premier League live. UEFA Champions League and Dutch football live.
Never saw.
Motor racing, all the action from Formula 3. Tennis and golf too. Cutthroat action with NHL ice hockey.
Great score.
NFL American football with 2 live games each week.
And he's in for a touchdown.
All the big sports, all the big stars. 97 is going out with a bang on ESPN.
By now, you would have received your great savings pack from Optus. When you take advantage of these exclusive offers, you can save up to 11% on your Optus Vision package every month. Plus, if you choose Optus Vision and Optus Long Distance, you can save a bonus 10%. It's never been easier to save money with Optus. So return your applications or simply call us on 1300 300 777, because the sooner you do, the sooner you'll start saving.
Imprisoned most of his natural life,
Make one more move, laddie, and I'll take you off at the neck.
Robert Stroud lived in a world of violence. There were no rules that could control his rage.
What do you want me to do? Cry? Say I'm sorry?
No punishment that could break his spirit.
A man ain't whipped until he quits, and I'll never give you that pleasure.
The 1962 classic.
I'd like you to watch something.
Burt Lancaster, Birdman of Alcatraz, now showing on Movie Greats.
The long, hot summer has begun. But don't worry, you can keep up to date with what's happening over the summer on Football Feedback Summer Edition. 7:30 Monday night on Sports AFL.
Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever seen anything like it? Kevin Sheedy has started a tradition. Fantastic scenes here. And here it is. What a scene at the MCG as the Bombers advance to the preliminary final.
Well, it's a pity we didn't see a lot of that jacket waving in season 1997. Perhaps there might be a more frenzied attack in the footy season of 1998. As I mentioned before, we went to that break. We're going to take a look at the clashes against Sydney boys, and this rivalry has really developed into something quite fantastic between you two sides now, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. It's probably helping develop the game in New South Wales and the northern states. We just can't take a trick up there. 3 games we've had the game by the scruff of the neck, the last 3, and we've just gone down.
Now, my mail is that you even threw a wobbly in your own lounge room after this game.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy.
Wobbly?
Well, I think
a little
we call it,
tantrum.
a little tantrum, yes, in front of some other people. I spat the dummy, not for the first time, but well, Gary's quite right. I mean, 3 games that they should have won, they've lost, drawn 1 and lost the others by an aggregate of 2 points, so it doesn't get a lot worse, and it's just watching a lead get eaten up like that that is particularly irksome.
But it can in that ground, can't it, Gary? Because just the sheer size of it and the way that they play it well, Sydney, I reckon.
They do. It's like a coliseum there too. You get the 40,000 people virtually right on top of you, and great atmosphere for footy. Not a bad ground, but...
and they've really got no idea about what's actually going on until they actually Sydney start to get in the lead, and they think, well, now we better start cheering.
Yeah, hopefully over the next few years we can educate, you know, you need people at the footy, sitting there watching, and the more they're at there, they'll get an education, perhaps become better supporters.
Well, Rohan, you can sit there and just control your emotions for a couple of moments or two, because let's go and have a look at this game. We pick it up late in the last quarter, and the Bombers lead by 4 points.
That is another nightmare of a bounce. Mercedes was looking initially for Hardwick. O'Donnell accommodates him. Lucas a short kick. Dunkley's a long way down. He almost gave away a free kick with a high tackle. Gee, they're tired now. Olarenshaw's kick was a tired one. O'Loughlin pumps it high, pumps it long. He wants Lockett. Forced to spoil at the back. Mercedes very quickly to Simons. Ball as he takes the kick, and Cook takes the mark. Oh, what a comeback this has been. They look gone.
Bombers have been, maybe Sydney's work rate's lifted. The Bombers have been slow in defence the last 2 minutes getting rid of the footy.
This to put Sydney in front.
It's a long kick for him, this.
Well, the breeze has dropped a little. It is favouring that end, but he's on a 45-degree angle. The ball will go from right to left. Coming back a little, but not enough. Goes in the
Bayes goes.
Bayes, who's kicked it, and they're in front. Oh, incredible. Incredible. Mark Bayes, how many possessions on 5?
5 possessions for Mark Bayes. 3.5 minutes to go. They've come from 20 points behind Sydney. Haven't been beaten here since round 2 last year. Arnott's high ball. Now the Bombers have got to find. Maxfield's got it. Quick kick to the goal square. Lockett. Well done, Wallace, as he's done most of the day. Belts it away. Out of play. Doesn't this stir you to be here today and watch something like this? Both teams.
36,077 fans here.
Boundary throw in. Front spot, Carey. McCurry's been wonderful. Olarenshaws away. Essendon's replied all day. Can they do it again? Lloyd's been a star. Plays on quickly. Open forward line. Huge ball coming up. Nicks in the box seat. It's got it. That's a mighty mark. The repercussions were enormous had he dropped it. Roos, the best for Sydney all day, comes away. Correction, Lewis, who's also been pretty good. Kicks the half forward. Well played at the back. Mercedes. Grant presented himself. Boundary throw in. Heroes everywhere here for both teams. 11-13 to 11-10. Less than 3 minutes. The Bombers have got to get a goal. O'Donnell has done the job on Kelly. Kelly pushing forward. Weight of numbers so important. Somerville. Here's a chance. Olarenshaw. McCurry. McCurry gets it long. Lloyd and Dunkley. Lloyd stands his ground. Seymour finds the boundary line. And all of a sudden the Swans want the line. It was Essendon 10 minutes ago. Fraser off, by the way. Jukovic on.
2 minutes and 20 seconds left.
That's how I feel right now. And I'm not barracking for anyone.
I prefer her hair. Who's the throw-in? What a finish. What a weekend of football we've seen so far. And we've got another throw-in. 36,077 fans have packed this ground. The Sydney chart has gone up. There's still time for Essendon. Wolf's short little kick only as far as Olarenshaw. Ricky Olarenshaw, is this the last roll of the dice for Essendon? Down towards half forward. Coming steaming through is Michael Parr. But he only closes the gap by a 1 behind.
She Cransberg all alone in the goal square. Sandy, a point last year, a draw last year, a point right now on this ground.
Becoming a bit boring, isn't it? Oh, it's unbelievable. Seymour is at half-back. Now Lewis is in the back pocket. Probably keep doing that if he wants to for a while, until they can set something up. He elects to go long to the pack on the outer side. Somerville with a couple of belts gets it down towards Mercedes. He chips short and finds Jukovic, who's outside 50. 120 left. Needs a long bomb and a Lloyd mark. Well, he's got the long bomb. It's a great kick in towards full forward. Pressure now on the Sydney defence, and Orchard, well, he gains meterage there. He gets it out of bounds. And there'll be a throw-in in the right forward pocket as Darren Cresswell limped from the ground.
Made the cross too.
Mercedes, can he celebrate his 100? Toiler Renshaw, back to Smoke and Joe. They're giving away a little round to set something up. Shea Cockatoo Collins, a rainmaker in towards full forward. It's going to be a Sydney free kick. I think Somerville went too early.
Inside the last minute. Gee, Nix a moment ago was important not to give the point away under pressure. Knew exactly where he was at. Time on's called. Roos kicks it as hard and long as possible. Stafford, Lucas, Bays. What a last quarter he's played. Must hug the boundary line now. Doesn't need to go inside at all. Kick it as far as he can. It's a good kick. Scott Stafford out here. Sydney with a real chance. Well, Stafford could have used Wharf. What he did was use some seconds and found the line. And suddenly the Bombers are right up against the wall. They'll have one chance here to go forward and kick a score. Somerville pushes. Olorenshaw can't get a handle on it. Cook does. Every play vital. Fletcher pushes forward. Sydney, certainly the odds are with them now to pull off what will be a famous victory. They were dead. They just weren't buried. They were 20 points down, and they've done it, the Swans. They've come from nowhere, and they've kept their brave and proud record intact. It's all over. Unbelievable win.
They won't come any better than that. Sensational comeback victory to Sydney.
Yes, one of the great comebacks, and a good friend across the road here in
What's that,
Rohan, Connolly.
Suki Lala?
Don't give cheek, mate. I might come back at us halfway through the year. That's the only difference. The only trouble is he can write about it.
Yeah, true.
Fix you up in print too, fella.
Nothing worse than a man with a pen. You were saying, Gary, just while we were watching that, some interesting, an interesting scenario on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it was when it went to 2 points, or when it went to 1 point, the scoreboard was still showing 2 points. So maybe in a situation a team might react differently if they're behind, or even if they're in front as well. You know, you might have had a Sydney guy rush through a point at the other end, perhaps, and thinking it was still a point up, and it was only a point of difference. So maybe Sydney have got to improve in that area too, having all parts of their ship correct, you know, scoreboards, etc., if they're going to be successful.
You know, being a Gary O'Donnell fan, you noticed I kept that 50-metre penalty out of that.
Yeah, no, it
highlights.
was very nice.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it was good. But it was interesting, like, that was a good point, because the last few minutes, I mean, the ball was certainly around the top of the square, and obviously if you knew, you'd perhaps just get up and one of the big fellas punch it through. So.
Well, Essendon certainly had their chances even after Sydney hit the front, and we had a look at Michael Pryor. Probably should have popped the handball over the top there to Peter Croonsberg.
Yeah, the coach wasn't happy with that. He was probably the only player on the ground that didn't see the option in the goal square. So that sometimes happens, and I don't think he's a selfish player. It would just be one of those things, and you know, you hope that the next time he gets an opportunity, makes the right decision, we win.
You've seen it a few times now, though, with Sydney. The way once they get that roll going, like you said, with the crowd and the size of the ground, it really is a lesson to be learnt by all clubs, that there has to be a way of trying to stem that out of the centre, rather than perhaps before it's too late. And once a side gets a roll on, it's one of the hardest things to do is to stop that roll on, but it's even more so the case in Sydney, I believe.
Yeah, it's a perfect oval. I reckon they could put the sticks in on the wing, the goalposts, and you play the other way, and it'd be exactly the same. You've probably got to get it out there and waste a bit of time, and you know, just scrap it like the rugby league when they used to play there. Do a bit of that and just hold the game up for a few minutes.
Well, all those 3 games, Essendon's had pretty handy leads late in the game. Have they made the mistake in going too defensive, or have Sydney just grabbed the initiative?
Various games have been different. I think the preliminary final in '96 was one where we We didn't, once we got those 2 or 3 goals up, there wasn't one stage for the next 5 minutes where we had a dead ball situation, like we had a mark or a kick out of bounds, our free, or a free kick. We didn't have control of the ball once, just to sort of take stock and have a look around. The ball just kept moving, and maybe it was just one of those, you know, things where we were unlucky. I don't know. We're going to have to, you know, exhaust the demons next year very quickly. We probably need a really big win just to you know, give them a few back. And I'm sure that, well, I hope the league does. In the draw, give us a game up there, because we'll be going like crazy up there.
Actually, the interesting thing, I'm just having a look at a little bit of information I've got here, or some stats here, off the rounds. And you guys really, even up until then, even though it had been a disastrous year, that's really when you just lost touch with the 8. That defeat, still, you were still there with a chance of getting in the 8, even after a bad year.
Certainly were. We'd gone Richmond, Melbourne, 2 good wins, and then if we had a win in Sydney, I think we may have only been a game or half a game out. As history tells us, that game destroyed us. The next 2 weeks were our worst 2 of the year, the Carlton game and the Port Adelaide return game at the MCG. They both beat us, they thrashed us both games, and I think it was because we were still flat after the Sydney loss.
Going to have a look at round 22, the game against Adelaide here. Was there a little bit of a change in selection policy leading up to this game?
Yes, I think Dean Wallace was always going to play for Mark Harvey's last game, and I think the last month as well we had changed our selection policy with trying the younger guys. I think every year Sheeds has been a big one. If we haven't made the finals, you know, it's all very well finishing 8th or 9th every year, but when you finish 13th or 14th, you've really got to get something out of the year, and the teams that sometimes finish 8th or 9th, that's where they finish every year. We were going to, well, use this season where we finished 14th to hopefully finish, you know, 1 in the next couple of years, and I think we've found a few players that might be able to play for us.
All right, let's sit back and enjoy some of the action. Round 22 against the Adelaide Crows.
Connolly, too far out to score. He'll land it inside 50. Oh, Jamison, big fly again, couldn't complete it on that occasion. Bombers defending desperately. They haven't got the numbers here, but Danaher comes in, overruns the footy. Jarman loves these snaps. He looks pretty good. I think he's kicked his second. He has. That's 5 for the Crows.
Just wider numbers again, Pete. Just putting the pressure on. The umpire went to ground, so did Dean Wallace.
No, at this stage they've been well down on the kicks and also the handballs. Here's Denham. He'll run inside 50. It's a poor kick. It's a floater. Lloyd's trapped it. Squeezes the ball back to Cransberg, and he kicks a goal. That'll lift the confidence.
Gary O'Donnell to kick in. Denham not able to grasp the footy. Pryor away to Caracella, or get rid of it quickly, Blumfield. He does to Hardwick. Hardwick, he's got 2 on 1. Cransberg, quickly Peter Cransberg, he does. His perception was brilliant. Moorcroft, go in. Left foot snapshot by Gary Moorcroft. The Bombers have got their 3rd goal on the scoreboard.
Evan started on the bench and has done well since he came on. Evan at right centre wing puts the Crows into attack again. They lead by a point. Terrific mark to Wellman.
Makes up for the one he dropped in the 3rd term.
Yeah, the crowd didn't let him forget it either. Harvey, the crowd favourite today, playing his last game. Bickley's got him, but he still gets his kick. Long one it is too. Oh, Cockatoo Collins got it to the back of his opponent. Lloyd snaps and kicks. The Bombers have hit the front. Gee, that was a good kick. 16 possessions, 2 marks. Terrific in that 3rd term. Kicks the ball, looking for Lucas, needed a bounce. He can get support from Danaher outside of 50. Rockets the ball to Denham. He's going to run inside 50. Denham throws him 45 metres out. He's got it. Been elusive today, Shea. He's kicked 4 goals. Lloyd's got 4 and Moorcroft has got 3. Denham again. Goes at goal. Not bad. Not bad. It's great. Terrific kick for the little fella.
Gets the hand pass away. A bit of urgency now by the Crows. Shane Allen from halfback to centre wing. Kicks to Bond. He misses it. spills down to Wallace, just controlling that last line of defence like a general. A wobbly punt kick to half forward, gathered by Hardwick, allowed Young in. Go Matthew Lloyd! Matthew Lloyd kicks the 5th goal.
Wales has won. They run to Mark Harvey as well.
We have a look there. It gives you an idea of the injury toll when they've used all bar one of their senior list for the season. Tim Williams, just for the trivia buffs, was the one guy who didn't play a senior game, but only 4 guys playing every game. And as we talked about Carosella before, you can see he's ended up coming in reasonably early and playing nearly all the year. Gary Moorcroft's another one who I think early in the year people might have had a few doubts about, including maybe the coaching staff, but he really came good at the end of the year, particularly the last 2 or 3 weeks. And Heffernan, Jukovic, just those players in the last month, once the 8 became no longer a possibility, they had nothing to lose by picking him, and they really probably surprised a few people with how at home they looked at senior level. Did you, Phil?
Yeah, and just we don't get a chance to see much of the seconds footy nowadays. They play all over the ship, but they just don't look as good a players sometimes in the seconds due to a number of reasons. Guys step up and are much better players in the seniors. I'd like to mention Moorcroft again. He wasn't actually on the list at the start of the year. He came onto our list from the rookie list, which I reckon isn't a bad system. When David Grenvold agreed to be taken off the list when he did his knee, so that was a good pick for us, and I think Gary might even be a regular player this year on his form last year.
Well, certainly in that last game of the season, I think he put the wind up Peter Vardy of Adelaide a bit. He sort of sorted him out a bit, didn't he?
I was already on the bench myself. I'd done a hamstring in the first quarter, and Vardy was staring into space from 50 metres from the line and really was in no man's land.
Despite the youth and the young players that they used, I think he started off with 5 goals down, I think, in the first quarter. It showed the Bombers had a little bit of bottom to them, didn't it?
Yeah, it was an emotional day for us with Mark Harvey's last game. I've never seen a bloke, he's a panellist here, I don't know if he's owned up, but for an hour before the game he just howled. And for a guy before the game, for a guy who's been a really courageous player and a tough player on the ground and got the reputation to go with it, he was a mess. And perhaps first half too, didn't look like getting a touch. Second half, I reckon he was one of the guys who turned the game for us.
Gary, grown men do cry.
They do?
They do cry. We'll be back shortly with more issues on the year of the Bomber.
Tonight in the NBA, a powerhouse Shaq and the undefeated LA Lakers storm into Miami to try and remove Hardaway and the Heat from the top of the Atlantic Division. The LA Lakers and the Miami Heat tonight at 9 on ESPN. David Campese, world rugby legend. Capture his life, his career, his teammates and opponents. His story on Campese, Rugby's My Life, featuring never-before-seen footage. How the goose step came about, his other life playing in Italy, 101 test matches and a record 64 test tries. Campese, Rugby's My Life, the official David Campese video.
We still don't know what it is or where it comes from, but there's something there.
The 1997 Holden Australian Open highlights Thursday night at 12 on Sports Australia.
Masiti. Oh, to Bomford. Great vision towards Long, and he's got it.
Berbikov, great mark.
They've got to come up again on Anzac Day. Oh, what a mark! Costa. Oh, great mark by Banks. To centre half forward, Cockatoo Collins.
It's a beauty, isn't it? Boots it out wide. Magnificently, Simons.
The kick to half forward. Oh, great mark, Danaher. From way out at half forward, sets it up. They need someone to take a mark. Lloyd! Oh, what about that?
Trying to set it up on 50 years. Lloyd, he's taken it.
The Renshaw's snap. Quite make the distance. Oh, good mark over the top by Lloyd.
Clears the 50. A pack of players. Big jump. Ransburg.
As Wellman drives it to the half forward line. Oh, great mark, Bob Longfield.
Stays on the outer side of the ground. Mercury. Great job. Carousella at 45 swings it around his body. Lloyd falling to the ground takes a great mark.
Left foot round the body. Aren't it? Oh, beautiful mark taken by Hardwick.
And then the play's been held up again, so they've lost the ability to run.
They're into attack. Wallace playing in front. What a mark for Carousella!
Mercury centering kick. Lucas, unbelievable mark. Puts it up. Wants a mark on the forward line. Oh, Matthew Lloyd.
There's a long kick. Hardwick does well. Fantastic grab in front of Leppich. Bombs the ball out of defence. Kicks the ball back. O'Donnell from behind the skipper.
Well, he's certainly got the free kick. To the goal square. Somerville. Jumped high, jumped early. Not contributing. Harvey. Oh, miraculous mark by Mark Harvey.
They've still got a chance. The standing start kick is high by Somerville. Oh, what a leap by Hook.
Well, as we have a look at the mark takers for 1997, and I don't think it's surprising having a look at Matty Lloyd there with 124, but I am a little surprised with Scotty Lucas with 122.
A great try for us this year, works really hard, and he was one of the players who copped the brunt of having to carry the team in that middle period where we were struggling a little bit and had a few guys out. He was the one that really put his hand up.
But very mobile and tall guy, so he'd really, and playing around that half-forward area, he'd be really wanting to take quite a few marks, wouldn't you?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. It was a situation where he found himself in a lot of positions as well, and
that's unusual
actually,
for Seeds to do that a lot.
No, yeah, yeah, of course. Towards the end of the year, he was. I think they slackened off his training because he'd had such a big workload, both off the field and on the field. They slackened it off, and he had a good year for it.
He moves very much like Hurdy. Does he follow Hurdy? He seems to have the long running ability.
He's got the big stride. I don't think he's as athletic or an endurance type athlete like James, but if he could develop, he's sort of got that funny sort of style. Even he wears Roger Merritt's number. If he could be that sort of player for us, he'd be invaluable for the next 10 years.
Well, this part of the show is all about incidents and issues, and we go to round 5 here, and this is where we'll see the captain probably don the policeman's hat here to a certain extent, and I think the pictures will tell the story in a moment, Ned, and Rohan, you probably remember this quite vividly.
I think the thing you have to remember about this is it came, we had a spate of racial abuse cases or incidents at the start of the season, and you just can't help thinking in retrospect now that this may have come as a result of the sort of increased sensitivity. And I think of all the racial abuse cases we heard or examined in the media this year, there was probably the greatest element of doubt over this one. We never, we know Michael Pryor and Armat came to some sort of conciliation, but we were never quite sure what happened. That was a feeling we had anyway, and I know obviously you played a central role in calming Armat down. What's your version of events?
Yeah, I think Robbie, obviously from the vision there, thought that what he heard was correct, and Michael was adamant that he said what he said. And I think that can sometimes, unfortunately, be the case where it's mistakenly hurt, in a big game situation, 90,000 people. They were both entitled to their opinions, though. I don't think you can, have a go at either guy. I think, and Robbie was right in his, he was quite entitled.
What were your words to him?
I virtually just said, look, I'm shocked that one of our players has done it, but if that's the case, fine, we'll sort it out at the end of the game. You just worry about your own game, we'll worry about playing the game, and we'll worry about it at the end of the game.
And he was saying this saying what he thought he heard?
He just called me that. He just called me that, and I said, well, look, that's okay. that's finished now. We'll just play the game. We'll sort it out at the end of the game.
I think you find too that might have been the time when Robbie also perhaps decided he may not want to be at Collingwood after this year, and made up his mind quite early that he wanted to move elsewhere. Now, look, I know he was talking to Essendon at one stage of perhaps going there. So it's
But are you saying that was as a result of that?
I don't know. I think that perhaps that might have been handled a little bit better. In the regard, they really rallied around Robbie, but I don't know if I think perhaps Collingwood might have been able to handle that a little bit better directly with Rob rather than with the media on a couple of
In what way? What could they have done that they didn't do? Well, so here's another one which was only about 4 weeks later, and again, you know, there's a little bit of, not mystery, but a little bit of doubt about this one as well. I know Peter Everett and Michael Long, again, there was conciliation in this case, but again, you had the feeling Michael Long perhaps wasn't totally satisfied with the explanation he'd been given.
Unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of situations where it's one-on-one. You're not going to have people around that can be witness to either side, and you know, hopefully just the more exposure that it gets, it's educating players as well, and hopefully that's a process that's going to be good.
And the club. I mean, I think Essendon have really been in the centre of it for a long while, so they probably know how to handle a little better some other clubs, and also it's like Gary was saying, it's one player's word against the others, and that's always a problem.
Well, and also, I mean, most clubs now have at least one or a couple of Aboriginal players. You know, it's pretty hard to say that players shouldn't be sensitive towards these issues now. So,
can I just butt in there for a moment, Rohan? We're going to have a look at this again, just towards the end. It's not this that I really want to see here, but I mean, it disappoints me to see that Longy gets fired up like that, because that's not his nature. And yet, a little bit later on, we'll see that Nicky Winmar, just to the left-hand side there, to your right of screen, walks off there, not anywhere, well, Michael's within earshot of him, but neither of these two Aboriginal boys speak to one another on the way off. And I just wonder whether Nicky might be a little bit deflated by the whole scenario as well, too, and not want to be involved in it. I mean, he's not near his own player, and you can see there that the Michael's just to the side of it. And of course, it was Nicky that made that stance at Collingwood as to well, the colour of his skin some years ago.
Well, I just think the Aboriginal players as a group were probably by this stage really disappointed in that, you know, we'd gone through this stuff 2 years ago initially, seemed to be making progress, and all of a sudden, you know, in the first half of the season we had probably half a dozen examples of it.
Nicky sort of gave that impression, so I really don't want to go through all this.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see his body language there was just...
Neither did a few of us by the end of it, I'll tell you. I mean, you'd much rather be discussing football than racism, wouldn't it?
Talking of Michael Long, let's move on. And round 8, unfortunately for Michael Long, this is the game where, what injury occurred here? Because he copped a couple, didn't he, Michael?
He played quite well that day for us, and we thought he hurt his knee, and we thought it was only a minor injury, but it turned out to be worse than first thought.
Happened so easy too. He's got up okay, just a little bit jarred. But...
And he'd already had a hamstring injury that kept him out for a few weeks, I think, early in the year, hadn't he, after the Geelong game? So I'm just wondering...
I think you're right, actually, because that's when I'm a little confused when I said, now, he did have an injury earlier in the year.
No, this was the major one, but it did look quite innocent enough at the time. It didn't look like a major injury, did it? And you've just got to ask the question with Longy now. He's had two reconstructions and a patella tendon graft or whatever they do there. Is he capable of withstanding the rigours of a full season?
That's a big question. I think mentally it'll be his biggest hurdle, whether he can get back and get in amongst it on a football field and have the full confidence of knowing that, you know, if he twists and turns, will his knee hold up? That'll be his biggest hurdle mentally, I think.
But Ned, we have a look there at him, and it didn't take him long to shed off the knee bandage. There was no support to any of his knees there.
Well, I think it's a good point, and you saw Sean Wren this year wear his knee brace, and he was told it really takes 1.5 years, 2 years for the knee and the grafts and all the operations to heal and become solid scar tissue again. And he made the decision to wear the knee brace, and perhaps the players have really got to look at those things, because you get your ankle strapped. Perhaps the thing is to look, if you have had some knee trouble, to get your knee brace on. Perhaps you just need that 2-year period to get the thing structurally sound again.
To do it 3 times, though, is a lot, though, isn't it?
I was about to say, Gary Pert, a great mate of mine, thought he'd done his knee again in the game where he went up for a scrim, I can't remember at the MCG, and snapped it back, and he said to me, as soon as he came off, if it's gone, I'm retiring. It's over, I can't do it again. And he had 2, I think. So mentally, it's a huge hurdle.
Michael goes through good patches and bad, where he has a for a month, a great rehab program and really committed, and then he'll drop off a bit. I think that's because he's had the third one, and that's the trouble he's facing.
So what's the target with him at this stage? When is he likely to play, if he plays?
I think he was aiming in the early rounds of the season. I would probably think that the club's got to look at playing him in a different position, maybe like the Mark Harvey situation where he got hurt a lot up forward and went back to centre-half back. Maybe we've got to look at Longy just being a permanent back pocket or half-back flanker for a while until he's able to really develop again after this serious knee injury.
This was the day, of course, that you lost James Hurd, and in round 10. Now, many of the experts sitting up in the grandstand in the commentary box said, yes, he's torn the calf. He's definitely done the calf. It unfortunately turned out to be worse.
It was. I reckon he did his calf because he'd had an ankle problem because he wasn't strapped down across keys where he rolled his ankle and all. Just a minor change in your running style just to accommodate that crook ankle, then it puts pressure on your calf, and then it blew up from there. But he's travelling well at the moment in our pre-season training, and he's a key to us, obviously. He's one of the better players in the competition, obviously, and if we can just get him right. We're doing a lot of work. Ned mentioned you strap your ankles. We're doing a lot of what we call proprioception work, strengthening our ankles on those like boogie board things, and balance and standing on your toes and spinning around and landing solidly on your feet, so that especially the younger guys.
That's a Collingwood bird.
Oh, sorry. Hopefully, the club in the future,
very good.
it's aiming to have players that don't have to strap their ankles. You've got the give in your ankle, you've got the strength, but you've still got the give, so it's not putting pressure further up your leg.
It's incredible. You walk into any physios, right, after you're doing rehab, and what do you see lying around the place? I mean, all those little boogie boards and all the rest of those things that you're talking about, and yet you don't see them in a lot of footy clubs.
Well, you don't. They have been there, but it's a great point. I never strapped my ankles until I came to Melbourne, and I really believe that as kids you perhaps shouldn't do it because your ankle becomes very susceptible and wants to be strapped all the time, where it should have that give and elasticity, and certainly that's something that should be looked at.
I mean, are all his leg problems really a legacy of his, not only the way he plays, but just his super athleticism? I mean, he never stops running. Is that a legacy of that?
Oh, it could be, but some guys go through a whole career and are as fit as him and don't have any problems. Well, I've had limited problems. Yeah, Craig Bradley, for example, he's probably one of the fitter blokes in the competition. He comes up week in, week out, so maybe just...
Ask Robert Harvey how he's gone the next step. I mean, because Harves was inundated with hamstrings.
But neither of those,
virtually had a 12-month frame.
Neither of those players are jumping, marking players, though. Hurd's got to jump, leap and run as well.
Yeah. Let's move on. I felt sorry for this young fellow this particular day. We're talking here round 10 again. Gary Moorcroft, and we'll talk about him later on as well, too, in perhaps where he may be heading. But the designated kicker, a young fellow, thrown virtually to the wolves.
Well, the club thinks he's a good kick. And
was this about round 2? Sorry, not round 2, about his second game.
Only about his second game, yeah. I'd been doing most of the kicking out myself, and I didn't play this day, and I must admit my kicking out this year was pretty ordinary as well, so we weren't going to do too much worse with Gary kicking in, but they thought he could do the job.
But he's a good kicker of the footy.
Oh yes, he's a good kick, and he can kick long as well, and I think the club was looking at that situation as well.
If you ever stood in the goal square and look at all the blokes in the zone and you go, okay, where am I going to kick to? And you know you've got to go somewhere, it gets a bit tight. You start worrying about it because it's a pressure situation. You got the umpire saying, come on, come on. I did it once, and then Shorey said, out of there, you're never going to do it again.
But that is a good point, though. It's hard to remember an Essendon game I saw this year where they didn't concede at least 2 goals via the kick-outs. At what point do you abandon it and say, look, we've just got to go long? I don't mean for a whole game, I mean in one specific situation. If guys are covered, how long can you wait?
But it's almost more dangerous, isn't it, Gary, going long sometimes, because it opens up the whole zone and it's almost easier sometimes. Right.
It can. The clubs are getting better. Like we do a lot of training, concentrating on the other team's kick-outs as well, and the game will only develop in that area as well. There are times, yes, when you just to give it a bomb, break it up, but you've still got to be wary of the situation where you've got a lot of guys in certain positions due to set plays, etc., that if you get caught out, come straight back, they get a goal anyway.
Well, the coach came under a little bit of flack heading towards round 11. I think Essendon were to play Fremantle, and Sheed's got a fair bit of criticism for not fronting up and having a look perhaps at Fremantle when he should have, because as I said, they played them the next week. We managed to catch up with him just prior to that, and this is what he had to say.
Well, Sheeds, good to see you. Did you ever think that your annual scouting program would be dictated to by the Monday night press?
Well, it is quite amazing, I suppose. Neil, you know, we see various games for various reasons. You know, there's probably the North Melbourne Carlton Reserve match had 15 players not unlisted, so they're coming up in the draft next. It's 10 minutes away from Essendon, which is, I've got to be there at 5 o'clock so I can get to the training because I'm the coach. But, and we have 2 or 3 guys go over and watch the Fremantle game anyway and come over and give us a whole report of the whole team at 6 o'clock. And I just get quite amazed, you know, what actually sometimes the print media doesn't understand in the job profile of a coach.
Yes, it is amazing because, I mean, you would have watched the last 3 games of Fremantle anyway, no doubt. And,
not a problem with that.
Yeah, so I guess that's the suggestion. I mean, do you know enough about Fremantle for this weekend?
I do. Now I've got to relay it to my players. And that, of course, naturally be on video. And they're the shots and the angles. I mean, every game here is taped down the ground. Every type of angle you can get at the MCG. So we don't have problems with that. But you come to the MCG on Monday, there's no reserves game. So you sit around for an hour and a half and not watch a game, which you're wasting time. And then, of course, you watch a half because you've got to get back over to Essendon. So I think in fairness, I thought they were a bit unfair and slightly unjust in their decision about wanting to even go the way they did.
Yeah, well, the problem is, though, the longer you're in this game, the closer you get to falling out, I guess, and that happens at clubs, and it probably happens with the media. They're always looking for something to get angry about.
You know, that's a good point, because, I mean, there's so many outlets now for, you know, media, whether it's be, you know, radio or whether it's be, you know, newsprint or television, and I think that's important for the game, but I really think that they should report exactly the whole story, not just the one story.
But the interesting thing, I suppose, in your circumstance now, you're probably better off, or it's probably more important how you get across to your players about their game rather than worrying about the other team's game at this stage anyway.
Yeah, probably. You know, we'll make a lot of changes this week, which are unfortunate, but, you know, we'll be forced out. And, of course, you know you're going to have a lot out the next match anyway, probably 5 or 6. So I think that from that point of view, we'll be looking at bringing a couple of new young kids into the side, and they're going to get to meet Fremantle as well, because I've never played against them in any sort of game because they don't have a reserve team. So they'll be playing on players for their first time ever. So how we prepare that group coming into the side to play against possibly new players for the first time in their life is a different part of coaching.
Well, thanks very much, Sheeds. That's great.
No worries, Neil. Great to have a chat to you.
Good on you.
Those press blokes again, we do it all the time, don't we?
Well, he did say the print media.
Yeah, no, look, it certainly raised a few eyebrows, I think, the fact that he wasn't at the game of the opponent that side was due to play next week. Perhaps it gathered a little bit of momentum, the criticism, after Essendon was actually beaten by 97 points by Fremantle the following week. But, look, point taken. I think probably what upset him as much as anything about that was some of the criticism was made without full knowledge of what he was at that reserves game to do. 15 unlisted players, you want to have a look at them. They got the report from the guy at the MCG. You know, I was less critical of that than others, I think. And but look, certainly Sheed spreads himself around. I think what probably heightened the criticism as well, even subconsciously, is the fact that you had blokes like Terry Wallace going and coaching his side and then jumping on a plane to see a Saturday night game in Adelaide. It was a pretty big contrast, and I think that probably added to the feeling that, you know, maybe Sheed should have been at the game.
I don't think we'll put you under pressure and ask you, Gary. Let's keep moving on and have a look here at Stephen Alessio. Now, short of big manpower, this was a real blow to you fellas in round 13. After, I think, he copped a 3-week suspension, then come back and ended up, what's his stress fracture?
Yes, we missed him for the rest of the year. He may have been one that could come back at the end, but being out of the finals race, we weren't going to possibly re-injure him, so he's fronting up 1998, round 1.
Is he becoming a bit of a frustration for the club? I'm not saying necessarily through his own doing, but he seems to have a long period on the sidelines at least every season, you know, often when he's in reasonable form.
Yeah, and he's such a good player for us when he's on the ground, and he creates a lot of options for us, and a good player from the opposition side's got to play on him. We've got a lot of players like Steve at the moment where they probably don't give us value. Like, they're very good players, but we want our best 21 to 23 players being available each week, and we've probably got 6 to 8 that are. You're always worried, well, you know, is he going to do a hamstring? Is he going to do a groin that'll put him out 3 to 5 weeks and just, you know, unbalance the side and put pressure on us?
The good news of a young fella, sorry Ned, we're going to have a look at here now, Matty Lloyd, had a great first year. Could he come back? We're talking about a young fella here who's played just 28 games of footy to round 14.
It's a freak of a player, really. You know, those guys have just got the ability to kick goals, and certainly Gary. I mean, it was interesting this year. It's really the longest I've seen Sheeds play someone at a key forward position with that build as well. Normally he gets to the stage where halfway through the year he starts to get a bit concerned that they're going to get smacked around a bit and starts moving around, but he basically played the whole year as the key forward position.
I think that'll continue, but it was made easier for him without James Hird being there and also Alicio. That may have changed the situation, but generally it was good to see Matty develop in one area, and he's going to be a good player in that position for us.
Just on that point, Ned, I mean, he did end up, I'm almost certain, with 63 goals, which was the equal highest Essendon goal-kicking figure for close to 15 years. So it's ironic that they were probably forced into playing Lloyd there, but they got fantastic results out of it.
As one of the great backmen, can I ask you to comment on this young fellow here? I don't really think he knew where to go this particular day. We're talking here, of course, of Dustin Fletcher.
Well, Dustin, I'd like to think Gary said, I mean, he's certainly better back than forward, but he's just such a tall, lanky bloke, and you think, oh, he's not much to play against, but he reads a play so well. Look at this kick. This is like... He should be back, shouldn't he? I mean, all backmen have got no idea where to kick the ball once they get near forward. I mean, I used to have that problem. I missed a goal in the goal square. That's how bad I'd go, so I shouldn't really comment at all.
Actually, he was actually playing in defence there.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, that was the point of the clip, actually.
I think he tried to get it on the, you know, to hook it back, and it went on the outside. But he kicked some good goals for us too, Dustin, up when he had the chance up forward.
I think he's copped a bit of a bum rap there. I think he was sort of squeezed off the ball, but he does have the odd brain explosion, Dustin Fletcher, doesn't he?
Yeah, every so often. Yeah, I think.
How old is he? He's a 19-year-old kid.
Oh, no, he's a bit old now.
He was 13 when he played in the Premiership. So I think he'll mature. He might be a surprise packet in the future, like 5 years down the track. He might be one of the leaders at the club. I think he's got. There'd be no way known now, but I think he's got the instruments in his repertoire to be able to improve and be a leader within the club.
7th of the 5th, 75 is his birthday, so that makes him just a little bit older than 19. All right, you do your maths. We'll take a break, and we'll be back with more highlights of Essendon's year shortly.
December 97, and this is Sports Australia. Cricket. Can Australia continue their reign at the top of Test cricket, or will the South Africans topple them from their pedestal? We'll find out when Sports Australia brings you highlights of every day's play as the two nations clash in a 3-test series. One-day internationals, highlights of every match in the Tri-Series between Australia, South Africa and New Zealand, with Sheffield Shield, Mercantile Mutual Cup and Tour games live and exclusive. Soccer. English Premier League, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, all the teams, all the big games from the most star-studded league in the world. Ericsson Cup, Australia's premier domestic competition with exclusively live games every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon. Golf. British Open champion Justin Leonard leads the international charge as the best golfers in the world converge on Melbourne's Metropolitan course to try and stop the Shark from taking Australian Open title number 6. And you'll see all the shots that matter on Sports Australia. Boxing. Fight night. All the champions. All the action. All the fights you want to see every Tuesday night. NFL. The best from the US, American football every Monday night. See it all on the Premier Sports Channel, Sports Australia, Channel 12. We've all seen them, quarters where everything works, where the players are in the zone. See them again on the best quarters ever played. Check guides for details.
Off-season?
On Sports AFL, there is no off-season.
USA plays Sweden. There is no other competition like Davis Cup. Friday Night Live, replay Saturday afternoon on ESPN.
Boundary throwing. Danaher probably could have had a snap. decided to come back. Rhett and caught, little kick, didn't go far. Lucas, well played, very well played. If he kicks a goal, will bring the house down. It's close, he has, what a goal! Was cluttered up by his teammates. He's kicked the full forward, at the back, Berbatov. Now Hurd again, can he get the distance? It's a brilliant kick. That is the kick of the round so far.
Doesn't kick it as well as he would have liked, but it still fell into the arms of James Hurd. Good tackle by Pike. Cockatoo Collins brushes spots, straightens up around King, kicks it goal, and has booted it.
Doesn't kick this one as well as he's kicked a couple of the others. So missed there, Calvin to the puppet. Bends it back, good kick, it's a goal! Oh. What a kick! McDonald, Kransberg, swings the left foot up towards full forward. Back goes Lucas, well done, he's kept it in, he's going to get a goal. Or is he? Oh, he's just got his left foot to it and kicked the goal.
Turnbull went without it. Good play by Ricky Olorenshaw. Gets it to Pryor. That's cleverly done by Pryor. Oh, great sidestepping, and he goes for home. That is a brilliant goal.
Practice run with the Scarves. Amazing they decided that was the clincher. Hurd, slung, kicks. I think he may have kicked the goal. Oh, terrific awareness.
Hooks it around the body. Berbatov again. Olorenshaw gets it to Massini from 50 metres. Oh, 2 goals in 2 minutes.
Wind, beaten by Alessio. Here's Fletcher, snapping, good looking here, but it's a beautiful goal. Knocked it forward, Dent, got it to Wind. Oh, took a long time, gave it away. Carousella pulls it back, it bounces through.
And Graham is down also for Hawthorn. Gets up very gingerly. So chance for Fletcher. Round the corner. He snaps a goal. Bad kick. Olorenshaw gives it back there to Pryor. 2 bounces. Right on 50 as Murphy chases. Long bomb to put Essendon in front. And what a goal! What a game!
Buick into an open goal. Won't quite make the distance. Mercury. McKay's got him. No, he hasn't. He'll kick a goal. He runs in point-blank range and dumps it.
He goes from the half-back flank up towards left half forward. In fact, as I speak, Stevens is immediately back on, so the Stevens boys swap again, and it's Lucas who fires in towards goal. He's kicked another one.
King, the quick kick on out. McKinnon in front of Heffernan. Denham. Heffernan again, good handball of Lucas. He wants his left foot, he's got his left foot. He wants a goal, he's got a goal.
A loss tonight could spell the end of their dreams of being in the finals. Fletcher, Lloyd, the skipper O'Donnell, this is going to bounce through. It's a 4-point ball game again.
Well, there is the great man himself kicking goal, and let's have a look at the goal kickers for 1997. Matthew Lloyd, as we said, on 63, equalling Paul Salmon's 1984 record, and Blake Carousella 25. Scotty Lucas, what a fantastic, he's got good goal sense, Gary, and I think he's going to be very important for you. But Matthew Lloyd, the future looks pretty bright for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He, second year virtually. Up until this year, himself and Scotty Lucas were vying for a spot in the side every time. They never played together. I think they was just slowly. That's a great mark too.
We should explain the context of that mark too. As you can see, Essendon are 4 points up there. I think at this stage there's about 2 minutes to go. And he just soaked up so much time. Well, soaked up a lot of pressure, soaked up a lot of time as well. Missed the shot at goal, but it basically guaranteed the game, and that was, well, for mine anyway, one of the best couple of marks of the year.
I think he kicked one after that again.
No,
even though that one missed before, was
yeah.
it okay? Because it really...
I had a fantastic day. Yeah, that was just a
shocking additions. Windy day.
Yep.
And that
could
was
cause a lot more damage to him if you're the opposition player. I mean, there's a magnificent opportunity there to really hurt someone.
Dean Wallace did well, quite just to edge out the
It did, like Gary said, Dean was terrific.
King Kong Bundy and Nikolai Volkov here.
This is a beautiful... Aren't they the 2 most attractive blokes I've ever seen in football, I reckon? Have a look at them wrestling around. His mum would be not scared, neither than
A couple of umpires now have come out in the press in the last, week or 7 days, talking about perhaps some of the issues that umpires have had to face through the year of what determines wrestling, what doesn't. And I think I'm getting the impression now, listening to a few of them, they would rather just wipe their hands off and let the game go on, and they're told to, OK, drag back, report. I know you probably can't say too much about it.
We've probably had a period of time, say 2 years, where the umpires have perhaps been under the most pressure that they've been under in the history of the game, with the certain rule changes that have come in. They've had, criticism as well. They're not doing their job. Perhaps that's been warranted at different times.
But lack of leadership, really, the umpires are really disarray at the moment, aren't they, Rohan? There's been some articles this week, but certainly they don't know what's going on at the moment.
Well, there's big changes afoot, but I think, the wrestling thing's certainly one area of umpiring that I think may have got a bit out of hand, but you can't blame the umpires for that. It's people have framed the laws of the game.
Matty Lloyd, we've sung his praises all the way through, but lacking a right foot here.
Yeah, the other guys, Scott Lucas, they're both left-footers. I reckon they'll be better players because of that, being a left-footer myself. When I came up as a kid, we were taught to kick both feet. You still are, but nowadays you're told to, if you've got time, run onto your correct foot or possibly kick it on your correct foot so that you haven't got an excuse. So, oh, that was on my right foot. It doesn't matter, I missed the target.
There certainly seems to be a lot more allowances made for guys kicking bananas on their natural side, even when they're not on the right foot.
A lot of guys practice that at training too.
This is, as I mentioned at the top of the show, towards the end of the season where we started to see a lot of these young guns, Rohan, really making a name for themselves, and these are the positive signs we're looking at.
Well, the thing about this night was, from memory, I think Brisbane got about at least 5 goals up, fairly late in the piece, and Essendon just kept coming and coming and coming. Gary Moorcroft had a big one, Lloyd kicked a few, Carosella. And you thought, well, it's a pretty respectable effort, and then all of a sudden they got up and won the thing, and I think this, just as much as the Adelaide game in the last round, would have given them a lot of heart for next year.
It was actually 34 points we were down, and we'd never beaten Brisbane at the Gabba. We'd won at Carrara for 7 or 8 years, but never at the Gabba. I think it was 5 on the trot, and it was just a breakthrough win for us, with a side that we had that was young and up and coming, and it was a great night for us.
You were very emotional afterwards too, wasn't you, when you were going to say that? Yeah.
I was almost, well, I reckon I was drunk. On the first time I've ever been drunk on the ground with emotion. It was just incredible, but going into the rooms afterwards,
talking of emotion, we actually happened to catch up with the Essendon captain after this, and this is what he had to say.
One of the all-time great wins, I reckon, up here, kicking against the wind in the last quarter. Matty Lloyd, how is he? Up for a contract renewal, I reckon. So am I. I'll give him a little bit to stay. Yeah, it was great. Gary Moorcroft too. The boys really fought hard to keep it in the forward line in the last quarter. Never gave up. It's been the example, or our side for the last 4 weeks. We want to take it into next week as well. We're wrapped. We're great. First win at the Gabba, and it's a great start to our 1998 season.
Well, would you like to replay that at the start of the year this year, if you were or you're in charge of the Sheedy video?
Definitely, yeah. And if they were interstate as well, where we probably haven't been as good, but, it was a great night for us, as I said, and we had a good night that night up in Brisbane, and you probably got to know a few of the younger guys that you've never been out with or never travelled much or didn't know them, and it was a good night all round.
What was the emotion like leading up to Mark Harvey's 400th? You touched on it just briefly before.
Well, it was it was planned for 6 weeks. With Mark, they decided on the games he was going to play, and this was the final one, and everything led to this game for him.
Did it surprise you the extent of emotions he showed? I mean, he's an emotional guy, but it really got to him, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I thought, there'll be times where you are going to break down. It might be, after the game or towards the end of the game, when you come into the realisation that it is your last game, but perhaps not normally before a game or for the hour before the game. It was quite remarkable.
I was very fortunate, obviously. You've got the ability to, the last game of the year, but to be able to play it, and obviously my last game at Victoria Park had the same opportunity, and unless you've been there and understand, it's amazing, because so many people contact you during the week, and friends who've done so much for you, and just to go out there with your teammates, because the last time you can actually ever go out there as a competitor, next time you walk across the field, you're just in the media or doing something, and it does get a bit teary.
How is he revered?
Oh, very well respected around the club. I think probably a little bit, players coming into the club, younger guys that have seen him play and the way he's played and perhaps the reputation he's got, don't know him very well, and that is an advantage for him as well, the sort of mystique about Mark, some of the things that he does and the way he carries on at times, and the type of player he is. He's been a great player. You could not have scripted it any better for him to, at the start of his career, come in and win 2 flags in his first 2 years, and then that last game at home, beat the eventual premiers. It was a great send-off for him.
There's a reason for me asking that question, but I'll ask it after we have a look what Kevin Sheedy, what his thoughts were on Mark Harvey, or are.
Oh, Harves was reckless, and it was a great recklessness too, you know. Courage, he was ruthless, absolutely ruthless when he felt that the other person was not the right sort of guy. He felt if he could barrel him, he would. He's exciting, extremely exciting. Really, probably when he came on the ground in the 1984 Premiership, we believed that we had something here, you know, right there in that match. We will miss him because hopefully he won't go too far, and hopefully, you know, he'll be around the club. But I would say that yeah, we've got to groom young men to take this man's spot, because that's what your fabric of your football club's about.
I think Kevin Sheedy nearly asked the question I want to ask you, Gary. He alluded there that he doesn't want to leave him or lose him around the club. Is it likely that we might see Harvey in a role around the Essendon Footy Club? Very much hands-on?
I would think that would be the case. Maybe not initially, but within the next 12 months, you might find him having some involvement with the football club. I think he's still deciding on what his future path is going to be, whether it be media, whether it be playing in one of the lower leagues, or coaching, or having involvement at the club, and that's something he's got to work out.
Do you think Sheeds would be worried about, like as happened when Roger Merritt left the club lost a lot of aggression, probably lost a lot of, you know, camaraderie, spirit. They'd be very keen to hang on to that with Harves, wouldn't they?
Yeah, blokes don't come around like that, don't come around too often, and I think to make every effort to have, even if he's not directly involved, to have him in some capacity at the club would be a great benefit for the guys that he's got to know, some of the younger players that are early in their career.
All right, well, we must take a break, and we'll be back with plenty more action coming shortly. But as we go to the break, let's have a look at some of the, some of the great shots that we saw before of Mark Harvey.
Look, the thing is, Horizon Learning Channel wanted to do one of those very clever ads that really gets the message across about their marvellous learning programs, or telecourses as we call them. But I mean, how can one possibly describe Horizon Learning Channel in one teeny commercial? Like the fact that many courses can be taken for credit towards a university degree. And what about the wonderful course textbooks and all those hobbies you can learn on Horizon? So for heaven's sake, turn your television into your teacher or your library or your best friend, your encyclopedia. Oh, that's done it! Now we've run out of time!
1997 is going out with a bang on ESPN. NBA, this is the big league. The big guys play hard and fast. Soccer, all the best from around the world. English Premier League live. UEFA Champions League and Dutch football live. Motor racing, all the action from Formula 3. Tennis and golf too. Cutthroat action with NHL ice hockey. They score! NFL American football with 2 live games each week.
And he's in for a touchdown!
All Sports all the big stars. 97 is going out with a bang on ESPN.
Lucas's kick, good ball short, will be mopped up. Primus beautifully tackled by James Hurd.
North defence needs to tidy up. Which way is he going to go? Schwass. Oh, is it holding it? Simpson, eventually the hand pass out. King, shirt fronted in the old-fashioned way.
Comes to the front of the pack. Colbert, he collared in a good tackle and holding the ball. Lepich. Wellman with him, comes to the front, Ashcroft a hand pass, McRae ridden into the ground, great tackle, came from nowhere, got it to ground, oh!
Having a good day, chips it up towards the wing, look out Jose! He was hit hard, feeds it back inside, Grant trying to get by Pryor and does, Hurd runs him down from behind.
Tries to centre the ball, Abraham runs into a brick wall, still with it Richardson, caught, that could be holding the ball, yes.
Now Fletcher getting back, Sydney on him, Grant was courageous. Bringing Murphy into the side, into play as Lloyd.
Hockey, caught by Danaher.
Yeah. Chris Danaher. Oh, flattened as Gavin Brown, he's hurt.
This way, that way, back inboard, can't get kicked away.
Little hand pass, well he got it back again.
Oh, Wallace caught underneath the ball. Risciuto on the burst, Croder crashed his way through.
Lands at centre-half forward, spills to the back, McLeod and Hardwick. Hardwick's got him, caught with the ball, good tackle.
A bit quickly, Denham, Leach comes in, Leach has got the footing. Oh, get got one!
And as we saw there, some of the most exciting parts of the game, I believe, the tackling and the bumping, and Shorty Denham there, 34 tackles for 1997. He is certainly the low centre of gravity, and it makes it very important. You'll see there most of the guys are strong in the legs and very low, and Moorcroft on 27 at the bottom of the table there, Gary. It's something that the coach encourages, and a lot. The tackling, a lot of the sides, talking to Wallace and those guys, is the tackling part, the numbers in a competition, in a game, are crucial. Getting up near 80 or 40 or 50 tackles per game is a very important part of winning the game.
I think some of the better teams do it very well. They tackle very well, and some argue that, you know, when you're tackling you haven't got the ball, the other team are beating you to the ball, but if you're putting pressure on and especially with smothers and just in close, not letting the ball get out easy to the other side's runners, you're doing very well.
Would that figure, what was it, 34, would that be considered a pretty low tally, wouldn't it, for your leading tackle?
Certainly would. I think Sean in other years has been in 50 or 60, and the others have been perhaps 10 more, so we've been fairly low in that area.
Shawnee Denham winning the best and fairest at Essendon, and a couple of good punters did predict this could happen, actually. How is the actual best and fairest in your club?
Well, Rob, we have 3 guys vote, the coach and 2 on the match committee, and they give 8 players votes, and it's a mark out of 10. So if we were to win by 100 points, you might get a 9, 3 8s, 2 7s, a 6 and a 5. If we were to lose by 100 points, you might get 8 1s. Sure. Or you might have a guy who played quite well and get a 6. And I think Fremantle game, we got thrashed this year. Sean Denham had 40 touches, so he might get 6 or 7, maybe 8, and then the rest might get 3, 2, 1.
How would you characterise his year, though? I mean, it was probably consistent rather than spectacular, really, wasn't it?
I think at our club, best and fairest winners come from being consistent with that sort of vote set up. And Sean was very good for us when we were playing well, along with he copped a brunt of a lot of the hard work to do with Scott Lucas as well, so he deserved his best and fairest.
It's interesting, talking of Sean, winning your best and fairest, and yet failed to poll votes in the Brownlow medal.
I mean, look, there's a different... You've got one group of people understand footy voting for the best and fairest in the club. The other group really shouldn't be allowed to vote for the Brownlow because they've got no idea. Is that the answer you wanted?
No, it wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was interesting. It's interesting to do comparisons.
Yeah, you're right. Something that outrageous. No, it's not that outrageous, but you know, probably a little bit harsh, but one group know what they're talking about.
This man did poll reasonably well. In fact, it was the second highest poller in the Brownlow for the Bombers, Joe Mercedes. Matty Lloyd polled 7, and just to update you from Joe Mercedes with 6 his year. How do you sum that up, Gary?
That's Matty Lloyd's.
No, Mercedes.
Mercedes, sorry. looking at the screen there. Joe was very good for us. I think he had a great chance to win the best and fairest if he hadn't have missed those games towards the end. He perhaps, the coaching staff get into him a little bit for responsibility to his opponent, but he certainly knows where the ball is and gets to it quite often, probably averages high 20 times, 30 times, and generally uses it very well. So he just has to get himself very fit and make sure that he plays a full season to have the greatest benefits for us.
So is that why often a lot of supporters would see that he's got 20 or 30 touches and yet he's sat on the bench? Is that because he hasn't been defensive enough? He's a very offensive player?
I think they're just trying to educate him as well. Perhaps there were times when it was warranted, and then there was times when he probably shouldn't have been on the bench and they were being a little bit hard on him. But it all goes with the development of a player early in his career. He's got a long way to go, and it'll make him a better player.
Rohan, you can talk about this little fella.
Well, here's Carousel again. I think this looks to me, that looked like a Whiten premiership match from last year, but this would be round 3. I think this, in fact, could have been his first game. Look, he's just, he's got great nous around goals, as we've already seen. Takes a really good mark, as we've already seen, and there were a few comparisons with Glenn Hawker. I think they might have had more to do with the number on his back, but he just has that coolness. Looks like he could end up being a half-forward flanker, ruck roving type. Do you feel that?
Yeah, he has got some good stamina, or the basis of, to develop, so he could be a guy that could strengthen his body and be able to play in the rigours of a centre square.
He's had a good grounding too, Rob. I mean, his first season at the club was 95, basically spent 2 full years in the seconds, which, seems to have really developed his footy brain. He has a great footy brain for a young bloke.
Definitely. I think he was being a little bit impatient too with he came through with Lloyd and Lucas, listed the same year, and he was probably frustrated that he wasn't getting a couple of games, and I think the extra time in the reserves has done him, or put him in good stead.
From the Northern Knights under 18s, I think, St Mary's prior to that. Oh, you're going to love talking to this fella. Dustin Fletcher.
Yeah, I know which way he's supposed to be.
How old is he?
So I've been adding it up. I've been adding it up. 75 makes him 22. Is he in defence at the moment?
At this stage, he's in defence.
Yes. Well, you've got to. I mean, like Gary said, I just think he's tall. He certainly doesn't lack any courage, and he has gone forward and he is kicking a goal. That isn't going the wrong way. But I just think he is like. There's a couple of young guys in that club now with Lloyd and himself that really, like Gary said, are potentially the leaders of the club. It's an interesting question. You keep bringing that up. Are you going to be captain next year?
I probably want to keep that to myself at this stage. Well, I've had discussions with the club.
He might still be out of contract. Remember, he said before. He has signed.
Well, agreed to terms, but haven't signed. I've approached the club and said, look, I'd probably prefer to hand it on and get a very good year of footy individually from Gary O'Donnell. Still be a lead around the club, of course. But the club will see what they think about that.
Well, that makes it a fait accompli that James Hird would take over as captain, doesn't it?
You would think so. You don't know what the club is thinking, but you would think that gives them the opportunity to make that sort of decision, but you never know what's going to happen.
Gary, talking of captains, will this young fellow we're about to have a look at here ever assume that role? Because I'm an enormous rat for Lucas.
Him, along with Lloyd and Fletcher, would be the ones, yeah. Scotty is a guy that will, in a team meeting, make a comment about, or come to a team leader and say, oh, look, I think we should be doing this, or maybe if we did it that way. Matthew Lloyd's the same. 2 guys that really wanting to have an input into their team at such a young age and a young stage of their career is an impressive sort of thing that they can have.
You do really notice that with the young blokes now, and Scott Lucas, Matthew Lloyd, they have that footy knowledge. You wonder how much of it has to do with that VSFL under-18 education, whereas I guess the Mark Harveys and these blokes tending to come in 15 years ago were probably slightly more rat-baggish, let's say.
Yeah, and also perhaps not knowing the things that these guys know until they're 25. These guys are 19 and probably 5 or 6 years in advance of the players of old.
Your season wasn't without its turmoils. We can't dodge the issues here, especially when we look back at their year. And, of course, earlier on, they lost Noel Judkins. Kevin Sheedy on Football Feedback had this to say about his recruiting manager.
It appears that one of the problems with Essendon was that in the football department structure, you were actually answerable to Danny. Now, was that a problem for you?
No, it wasn't a problem for me. We may have had different philosophies, but if I want to recruit players, I think that I as a coach, should be able to recruit them.
Yeah.
So,
so was that? I mean, was that a cause of
not the
problems?
No, not really. I mean, just there are areas where I think that at times over the last 4 or 5 years we probably could have had O'Reilly, we could have had Holland, Pike last year. Of course, Danny wasn't manager in all those sorts of years, but they're all pretty good, strong players to have. And you know, I'm there as a coach also, trying to make sure that we're getting the best thing done for our supporters too.
Well, Essendon's always had the reputation of having probably the best recruiting man in it, and Noel Judkins. Is that saying that perhaps his performance hasn't been up to par?
In some areas he's been brilliant, and in other areas we've got to get better.
What are they?
Well, recruiting tall people.
Tall players?
Tall players, and regarding players like what I just mentioned, players who can play down the spine. And I think that whilst that might be fairly hard on him in that situation, they've all ended up fairly good players. And in a classic case with Pike is that he's ended up a Fitzroy, Bess and Ferris, and he's played every game in North Melbourne's side this year, and they were the last pick in the draft. And of course we had probably 4 options that we could have picked him, and he's still quite a good player, Pike. So I think there's one classic case just of this year, but in particular Holland and I'd have to say Riley were areas that we probably had the opportunities to draft them.
Did you really get the answer that you wanted?
I didn't get the answer I expected. Look, I mean, that was one of the most controversial things I think that was said in footy all year, and you know, I wouldn't say it amounted to an absolute pasting of Noel Judkins' ability as recruiting officer, but I just think the feeling there maybe was that I know Noel Judkins felt afterwards the concerns probably could have been raised with him in a more private forum, and it probably just, at a time when the club really didn't need that sort of instability, it just brought yet another issue out into the open and a bit of festering disappointment with what was going on.
I think at that time it was the Corcorans, it was the Judkins, it was the Whedons, it was the tight unit was still there, and now all of a sudden we were just starting to see the rudder was just starting to flail a little bit.
Well, without Sheeds having said anything to this effect, I just got the feeling that around that stage he said, well, you know, it's going to be those guys or myself. There's just too much tension between us. Now, I know the club denied there was a lot of tension between the people involved, but from my perspective, there certainly was. And, you know, I think that was a pretty critical moment in what ended up happening at Essendon and leading to what is a completely different football structure at the club now.
Well, Gary, certainly I don't think the club handled that whole situation well, even towards the end of the year with David Whedon going to Collingwood. I mean, I thought that perhaps it could have been handled a lot better by the general admin. Was pressure again applied back to you in that case?
Yeah, I think it's probably in my career at the club while I've been there, it's probably one of the periods where the club hasn't handled itself as well as it could have. I think we pride ourselves on telling the press as much as we can without telling them much, and at different times things got out. Probably there wasn't a tight ship there, and probably there was some disappointing things that came about. But you know, nowadays, or from now, we've got a different structure. It's all come back to Kevin Sheedy, and he is the one that's got the responsibility. The buck stops at him, and I think you'll find a guy that will get a lot out of the guy, because that's what he was like from, you know, when he first started as a coach. He had the total control, and now it's turned full circle and it's back to him again.
Well, once that had happened, I think once Danny had signalled that he was going, all of a sudden the rumours really did start to gather some momentum. They called a press conference together. Here's what the heavies at Windy Hill had to say to the press.
Basically, we've taken a fair amount of flack in the last couple of months, and we believed it was time that we should bring the 4 senior people at the club together in one single meeting to let you ask all of your questions with us all present. I'm personally tired of saying that the club and Kevin Sheedy will continue together, because every time I say it, somebody goes out and says Sheedy's going to leave, and then they go and talk to Sheedy and say the club's going to sack him. So we go round and round in circles. This morning's an opportunity for you to talk to us all as a group and hopefully put it all to bed once and for all.
Yeah, it was interesting in there, or a little bit later on, they were hell-bent on saying David Whedon won't be. I mean, at the time, everything was geared around Butch leaving the club and heading off in this direction, that direction, and yet we were told that particular day that David Whedon had all but renewed his contract, I think was the exact words. I may be wrong. but he won't be leaving the club. Hence, a little bit further down the track, he's gone.
I didn't find that press conference particularly convincing as the conference to clear up all matters. Well, no, seriously, wearing my professional journalist hat. Sunday Age, sorry. No, look, I just felt, and you're right. I mean, David Whedon, the indications there certainly were that he was probably more likely to stay on, but I think David always had the doubts in his mind and was probably, once Danny Corcoran left, always more likely to leave than to stay. And, it was good to see them finally come out and have people be accountable for what had happened. But, I think one of the disturbing things for Essendon this year was that sort of lack of presence, not lack of accountability, but lack of presence to explain things to the supporting public.
Well, you were there, Gary. I mean, is that probably one of the instances that you were putting under the pump of saying, well, perhaps maybe we could have handled it a bit better? Is that one that you maybe...
Oh, no, I thought that press conference was, from a club point of view, went the way that, from our point of view, the way we wanted it to go. I only got asked one question that day. The other three were under the pump.
You're a very astute journalist, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you remember the question?
I don't know. It might have been, who are you playing next week?
I think I would have known. It would have been a bit more in depth than that, I hope.
Yeah, look, it was something that the club thought it had to do, just to bring everything out and allow the press to fire things at them and explain what was going on. But clubs do that. They obviously not going to tell you everything either, but they're going to try and use that as a tool to perhaps get the press off their back and then concentrate on the things that they have to do to correct things.
Yeah, well, it's now all water under the bridge. I did mention before, injuries played a big role in your year. Ned, having a look through these, and I know you've studied these fairly closely.
What's interesting with the foot injuries there, they did have to say, and they're concerned because often foot injuries can keep festering coming up if they're not managed very, very carefully. So obviously the club will have to be looking at why that is the case with the number. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Plus, who else was Gary saying off there?
Andrew Bomford.
Bomford also had a foot injury as well. So, but look at the weeks there. I mean, the sides that really go well these days, the sides don't have injuries, do they?
And as much as the weeks there, Ned, have a look at the quality of player. I mean, Longhurst, Buick, Somerville, #1 ruckman, Alessio, key big man, and Mark McCurry, probably second or third most naturally gifted player at the club. It was just a shocking tile.
And again, a soft tissue, which Gary is something he can't. I mean, he's got to have a solid full year if he can next year, doesn't he? Because he has had such an interrupted year with such an important player.
Yeah, certainly. We're just looking at, writing off last year and getting all the guys right in a way, or preparing them for a year that hopefully we're not going to get the injuries that we had and give the competition a real shake.
Well, we're into the last quarter. We're reviewing the Bombers' season of 1997. When we do come back, we'll have a look at perhaps some of the young Bombers that may carry them on in 1998.
They're players of experience, players that inspire their team. Hear what the captains have to say on the Captain's Comment. Check guides for details.
Off-season? On Sports AFL, there is no off-season.
Over the top. American football live and lively when the Chargers turn on the power to break those Rocky Mountain Broncos. Red-hot West Coast rivalry when San Diego clashed with Denver.
Gets smacked. Looking to make some move. Touchdown.
NFL Live, Monday at 12 on ESPN. Replayed 9 Monday night on Sports Australia. They were young boys on a journey to become men.
I'm not here to wipe your noses and your asses. It takes discipline to make it out here.
But many would never finish the trip.
Give her. She's going down. Come on, Chuck. Go.
Based on a true story.
National Weather Service says white squalls are a meteorological phenomenon of the imagination. What do you say to that?
Jeff Bridges, Scott Wolf, White Squall, directed by Ridley Scott, now showing on Movie One. The 1990
1997 Holden Australian Open highlights Thursday night at 12 on Sports Australia.
Why do they race? They race for glory. They race for passion. But most of all, they race for the checkered flag. Checkered flag only on Sports Australia Channel 12.
Well, the major kick getters for 1997.
Well, Essendon, wouldn't surprise me if Essendon had close to the most kicks in the league, because they just kick it everywhere, which way at times, don't they, Gary? But, you know, interesting there, it's basically been shared around among the little running working players such as yourself.
I don't think this year as much we chipped it around. I think we concentrated on changing our style, and I think that will continue. When you're kicking the ball, I think the emphasis, teams that are high kick teams are generally higher up in the ladder. And, well, that was not proved right for us, but generally all the others, their kick ratio compared to their handballs is quite high, and they find themselves up high.
Down back, though, that half back, or when you get out of full back, you really tend to chip it around there, don't you? Is that the set plays really just find out until you get someone loose on the wing to kick to? Is that the sort of set play?
Yeah, at times that happens, but I really think we've been concentrating on, you know, changing that as well. Yeah. The criticism was the year before we really copped it, perhaps in a situation where we were higher up on the ladder and had a chance for the flag, and people were saying, oh, you know, gee, they chip it around too much, they're not going to, you know, they should be more direct. Well, this year, in a year where we didn't do as quite well with our results, we tried to start turning that around. It's a slow process, but teams can change styles of play. Look at Adelaide under Blight; they changed dramatically and they won a premiership. So we'll continue on concentrating on that.
But Adelaide did go very direct in the at the end of the year, didn't they? And North, the premier the year before, was a direct side as well.
Look at this. This is my favourite part of the show. Reports of 97.
Trip to Purgatory.
Hey?
The trip to Purgatory.
Yeah, exactly. Ansett Cup prior for tripping, fine. I mean, do the guys, Orenshaw there for striking 4 weeks and Alessio, that's around about when he did his foot too, wasn't it? Was that, or was that just prior to that?
A bit later on.
Bit later on.
The Orenshaw one was the first game of the season.
While I was there, getting charging and getting cleared, which is unusual.
And a little bit of controversy about that. That was the report from the Anzac Day game, and yeah, a little bit of water went under the bridge there.
Let's have a look to the future here, Gary, and your thoughts here on Matthew Banks.
Well, he's quite tall and can play. I think he'll only, well, at the moment, will only play a key position down back. He's come on in leaps and bounds. 2 years ago, I would have said he'll never play league football, but to play 2 games is a credit to him. Now he's just got to work on it. He broke his arm later on in the year. He's a chance to fill a spot if he keeps improving how he has in the last 12 months.
Well, he came in, his first game was in that absolute pressure cooker environment that is an Anzac Day Essendon Collingwood game, and a severely depleted Essendon lineup, and he actually acquitted himself quite well, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Sav Rocker kicked 5 goals, but 2 were unstoppable, and you know, to go with 3 goals, when in the past Sav's kicked 7 or 8 against us on average, is a good effort.
We saw Andrew Bomford front up here 3 times in the ones this year.
Again, he was one who got injured, but burst onto the scene in that North Melbourne game. Probably didn't get a kick in his other 2 games, but he's got a lot of stamina, and he's very hard-boned, hard-nosed sort of player, and might be good, you know, in the clinches for us in an on-ball role.
Unusual pick up from New South Wales.
Yeah, well, he originally played seconds footy with us, then moved up to New South Wales, and then we've come back. I think Sydney were going to pick him, and we got in ahead of them.
Well, he played a heap of seconds games for Sydney, didn't he?
He played 81 before he got a senior game, so I think that would be close to a record. Yeah, well, he beats me.
3 games here also from Chris Heffernan, who knows how to dish it out too, by the look of things.
You don't get knocked down very often, or Brownie doesn't stay down very often.
Chris, very athletic. He's in pre-season at the moment. He's head and shoulders above everyone else as far as his fitness, his stamina and that. He's a great athlete, and I think he shows signs of being a good player. He was a #1 pick the year before, and the year at the club will help him settle in this year.
Another great pick like Lucas, of course, from the Western District. Here's, now, we're not talking about
Jason Johnson.
Looks a little bit like Bomber Thompson, personally, probably about his height, and again, a player who reads the play very well, and in the clinches, you know, when it's tight, he can get a ball out, and he was quite a good player in his 3 or 4 games that he played.
Unusual background for this next fellow, Daniel McAllister. Only played 2 games for you, but from Tassie, probably one of the first of the Tassie boys to get drafted across.
I think he can be the player that, of any player on our, or young player on our list, that will improve the most, because he hasn't played league footy or Australian rules footy for a long time. I think it might have been his 5th year of football this year, so he's still really learning the game and the strategies of the game and the way the game's played. So I think with his tremendous athletic ability as well, he could be, you know, probably the best young player prospect that we've got.
Well, very highly rated. Obviously, they wouldn't have given him Gavin Wanganeed's old number if he wasn't. And also, just for the trivia buffs, I think the 2nd New Zealand-born guy to play AFL football, Wayne Schwass being the 1st. So we're spreading our wings.
Just come up with some amazing stats, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. Now, listen, the other thing, lovely story about this young kid, because when he was drafted, we went to the camp and I was having a chat with him, and he was one of the kids. They said, look, just keep an eye on him, Robbie, and we did a little bit of a package on him, a story. I said, what do you do over there? He said, I'm an apprentice dairy farmer. And I thought it was just priceless, because I thought, hello, Geelong would be the only Monty to pick him up. Where are you going to do any dairy farming around Windy Hill or Hawthorn or Glenferrie or anywhere like that at all? But it's good to see that he's fitted in and really starting to look like he's going to pay dividends for you.
Yeah, he certainly is going to be a good player. I think he's got some evasive skills like a Wanganeen type, able to balk around players and not get tackled. In pre-season, actually, we play the odd game of touch footy.
Well, didn't he represent the state at soccer? You're talking of trivia. Now, this will test you out. I've got a feeling McAllister has represented at a couple of sports. It's either hockey or soccer or somewhere along the line.
Might have even been rugby. Let's just cover ourselves here and throw in water polo and archery as well.
Do you want to throw one in?
I'm staying out of this.
Rogaine.
All right, let's have a look here at Andrew Jukovic. Now, another young fellow that hasn't played an enormous amount of games. In fact, I think 5, if the memory serves me right.
Yes, the guy looks like he's straight out of Auschwitz camp from the war. He is a good reader of the play. Not a bad mark for his size. Reads the play very well in that he can get into a situation where he'll get a ball on his own, which is handy to have. Good evasive skills, and I think Sheeds likens him to a young Gary Foles. Now, I didn't see Gary Foles when he played in the years ago, early in his career, but Sheeds reckons he looks a bit like Gary. So, Gary, 300-game player, if he's anything like that, he'll be good.
Well, I can remember seeing Jukovic for the first time when Essendon went up to Brisbane to play the Ansett Cup, and the side got thrashed, but he just did a couple of things that reeked of class. Can you see him becoming a sort of the small goal kicker on the forward line there, or what would you see as his natural position?
I think that would be the situation, yeah. He'd be a crummer forward line type player, but you know, in a Kevin Sheedy coach side, that who knows? At times he might, you know, be given the task of chasing someone in the back pocket, but probably best placed down forward. Yeah, he's got some nous and some class, as you said.
It's interesting looking at all those guys. I mean, probably nearly all of them are very tall, athletic, mobile sorts of guys. It's amazing how most of the clubs now are looking to that to the future and just being able to be flexible, even more so, I suppose, with Sheeds, the way he throws the sides around.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you're going to have to be a very good ball player, football player skills, if you haven't got that athletic ability in the future, because the game may well pass you by.
Can you see similarities with 1992 here? I mean, similar things happened. A core of young players came in towards the end of the season, probably performed better than people thought. Has this really set next season up for a 1993 type year without wanting to put too much pressure on?
I hope so, yeah. I haven't got a lot of time to be playing league footy, so I hope it happens quick. There certainly is, you know, a good feeling and an air of, not confidence, but expectation about the year, and thinking that we've got a really good chance, along with, you know, probably a dozen other sides. But the list of players, it's got youth, it's got experience, probably lacks a little bit in the middle, but it's got vibrancy. You know, the club turns over the players fairly well, and there's always a vibrant list of players, you know, coming into your team, and that's probably one of the strengths of the side.
Well, this sounds like a lot of vibrance coming from, well, the ex-captain. If that's your decision, Gary, that you want to take that role...
well, you probably heard it publicly for the first time, I suppose. Like, it's only in the infancy, and I don't know what the club's thinking. They're sort of...
Well, I know there's a lot of fans and us would love to see you stay in that role, because we think you are a great leader. Thanks for coming in today and spending some time with us, as we said before, with our old mate halves too. Very important people around the club, and a very important person around us here too at Sports AFL. Thanks to the panel, Craig, and to Rohan and Gary. Have a great year. Season 1998, I think, is going to be a good one from the Bombers. From all of us, hope you've enjoyed the show. Goodbye.
This has been a Sports AFL production.
December 97, and this is Sports Australia. Cricket. Can Australia continue their reign at the top of Test cricket, or will the South Africans topple them from their pedestal? We'll find out when Sports Australia brings you highlights of every day's play as the two nations clash in a 3-test series. One-day internationals, highlights of every match in the Tri-Series between Australia, South Africa and New Zealand, with Sheffield Shield, Mercantile Mutual Cup and Tour games live and exclusive. Soccer. English Premier League, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, all the teams, all the big games from the most star-studded league in the world. Ericsson Cup, Australia's premier domestic competition with exclusively live games every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon. Golf. British Open champion Justin Leonard leads the international charge as the best golfers in the world converge on Melbourne's Metropolitan course to try and stop the shark from taking Australian Open title number 6. And you'll see all the shots that matter on Sports Australia. Boxing. Fight night. All the champions. All the action. All the fights you want to see every Tuesday night. NFL. The best from the US. American football every Monday night. See it all on the premier sports channel, Sports Australia, Channel 12. Hear what the men who run the clubs, who play the game, have to say. The Boss. Check guides for time and day details.
Off season. On Sports AFL, there is no